The Mariners were able to defeat the Snakes last night 6-1 in game 1 of our series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to go over that plus the preview for games 2 and 3 with D-backs writer Aaron Hughes. We're also going to have our pre-prospect recap like normal with Ben Ranieri, and Colton is missing from Mariner Mojo. We're going to talk about that in the weekly update as well in this episode of Raise the Trident.
Perfect. Right field, bye-bye! A grand slam! Giddy up, baby! That is way gone! That's what I'm talking about. Julio!
Hi, my name is Jake, and welcome back to You Love to See It. We're going to be on Raise the Trident today, your weekly show about the Seattle Mariners. It's not really weekly anymore because I post a lot of these per week at this point. We're going to talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks, which has been a really fun series. I think everyone could kind of circle on their schedule when that's was announced this year that the Arizona Diamondbacks would be coming into T-Mobile Park for a 3-game stretch. Game 1 was last night. We ended up winning that 6-1, and we're going to talk about that with writer Aaron Hughes, Aaron R. Hughes on Twitter. He's not a stranger to this channel. He's been on here a couple times, so he can hopefully give us some insight about how the D-backs are doing right now, plus the 2 pitchers we're going to be seeing in games 2 and 3, Slade, Cecconi, and Brandon Pfaadt, and a bit more about who they are as pitchers and what to expect from them. It's really great insight. I hope you like that segment with Aaron. We did talk about a little bit some of our not great opinions about umpiring in 2024, so that was a fun little talk too. And then of course the prospect recap with Ben Ranieri later on, and the weekly update with Joe from Mariner Mojo. Colton is missing. We need to find my Pookie Bear. But yeah, we're going to get into it now on Raise the Trident with Aaron Hughes talking about the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I am here with Aaron Hughes from Good Morning Baseball. You may have seen him on Twitter at Aaron Hughes. He, well, actually at Aaron R. Hughes. That's right. I need to remember the R in the middle of there. Writes about the D-backs. However, he is a Mariners fan on the side. It's kind of our little civil war here, this series going on. And we're first going to talk about game 1, which I think went really good for me and really
absolute disaster. No, that was
good for you. Yeah. Well, so I mean, getting into it, right? You go into game 1 and it's Zach Gallen, who is a perennial Cy Young candidate in the National League at this point, versus Emerson Hancock, our number 6, who's filling in for Brian Wu on the IL. And I mean, I said it in my last video. I wasn't going to be taking the Mariners money line for this game at all. And I guess I should have, because we ended up winning 6-1. So I guess just going over the pitching matchup first, going into this game, I would imagine the confidence was pretty high on your guys' side with Zach Gallen on the mound.
Yeah. So Gallen was coming off probably his worst start of the year. It wasn't bad. He kind of got roughed up a little bit in San Francisco, but you're always going to have confidence in Gallen coming in. And he looked fine most of the way through. I mean, obviously he got dinged up by Rojas first pitch of the game, and then Mitch Garver later, but he looked fine. He walked one batter, and it was the last batter of his outing eventually in Josh Rojas. But the real concern and what we haven't gotten to here is that Gallen ended up coming out of the game with injury. It ended up being a right hamstring strain, but still never what you want to see, especially for a Diamondbacks team that now has had 4 starters exit games with injury this year. Eduardo Rodriguez, Ryan Nelson, Merrill Kelly, and now Zach Gallen. So absolutely a disastrous start. Hancock looked fantastic. So you wouldn't assume that he was your guys' sixth option.
Yep.
So he was dicing guys up, induced a lot of ground balls, and just
Yeah, well, with Zach Gallen, I mean, he ended up having a fine start. I mean, you look at his final line: 5 innings pitched, 3 hits. He only gave up 3 hits. 2 of them were home runs, 3 runs, 3 earned runs as well, 1 walk, and 3 Ks. So he wasn't getting a whole lot of swing and miss like you would usually see from Zach Gallen. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Josh Rojas pretty much ambushed him on the first pitch that he threw. It was a fastball right down the middle. Josh Rojas took care of it and put it into the right field bleachers or seats. And then later on in the game, Mitch Garver also ambushed a home run. Ended up being, I believe, just a solo home run. He barely got it out in left field. It barely exited. However, he got it, a hang of it, got it out of the park for a nice home run against Zach Gallen. So that's my thing with Gallen and his performance. Like, I mean, he got hurt by those 2 home runs, but I mean, realistically, he didn't pitch bad. He was getting a lot of swing and miss, which was kind of strange when you're looking at a pitcher of his caliber versus Seattle Mariners. It's no secret that we strike out a lot, way too much. There's been so many games where I've looked in the box score and we are at double-digit strikeouts in the game. And so I was expecting it was going to be a really rough day at the plate. However, not that it was great. However, those 2 home runs really were huge for us. And I think it's just surprising that he was only able to get 3 Ks. Like you said, he ended up exiting the game early, uh, which when I saw a trainer was coming out, I think we all collectively held our breath thinking it was an arm thing and like, oh no, another guy is about to go down for a long period of time. Thankfully, it's just the hamstring tightness. They've already said that, they don't think it's going to be a long-term deal, which is good. So, glad that is what the injury was. It wasn't more than that. And then with Hancock, I mean, the thing with Hancock coming in as a number 6, his role, and we've said this multiple times on this show, and I mean, pretty much anyone who makes YouTube videos about the Mariners has said the same thing. Hancock's role is not to be some lights out pitcher. His goal is to keep us in the game. And if he can do that, then we are doing good. And he's done that at this point now, like what, 4 out of the 5 times he's pitched. The only like problem was the Brewers game. Other than that, he has done his job and he's done it pretty well. He's not getting a lot of swing and miss. He only had 4 Ks. However, he limited the Diamondbacks to 2 hits and 1 run. And that was a solo home run from Kevin Newman, I think. So, and he was getting a lot of weak contact. I mean, he got a lot of strong contact too. Like, it was a very good mix. But when he needed to get the weak contact, he got it. Ended up getting 3 double plays to come out of really tough situations, which I'm sure was infuriating on your end. You get runners in scoring position, we get a double play to end the inning, and it was just, I mean, it was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie on my side, but I can't imagine how it was feeling on your side on that. So,
Man, when you're looking at the Diamondbacks offense, I believe this is only the 3rd time through now 27 games that the Diamondbacks offense has been held to less than 2 runs. The Diamondbacks have had a feast or famine type offense. We've seen 4 different games already where they've exploded and tacked on 13 plus more runs than the enemy team. So the offense can bang. And what we saw from Hancock here is lots of ground balls and just the Diamondbacks offense not being able to square up anything. It was a really, really tough night at the plate for a lot of different guys on the squad. You mentioned the Kevin Newman home run. That was honestly, the only real rally that we saw until that 4th inning, where Ketel Marte ended up making it all the way to 3rd, and he was stranded there. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. double play, his 2nd of the game to that point, and then a Christian Walker ground out. The 9th inning, there was a little rally there. You probably saw. I think we had the bases loaded for Gino at the end there, against Cody Bolton, I believe. And other than that, there was nothing. Just no chance for the Diamondbacks to really put any kind of battle up against these Mariners pitchers. And it never really felt like we were in the game. once Gallen came out, it was over. I mean, it was a 2-1 game when Gallen came out, but Scott McGuff had to warm up, and pretty much immediately it was a 6-1 ball game. The Haniger grand slam, that was just really
The
the
dagger.
dagger. Mhm.
Yeah, in the bottom of the sixth, it started with Josh Rojas walking. That's when Gallen came out. Julio Rodriguez singled to right field, and then Cal Raleigh walked to load the bases on a 3-2 pitch. Mitch Haniger, I mean, he knew that McGuff was going to throw a strike. He wasn't going to try to walk in a batter. He was able to get his barrel just enough on the ball. It hit off the yellow line and went into the bullpen. So it was as close as possible to not being a home run, but he did get the grand salami there. And then that was pretty much it. The rest of the game was that was about the rest of the action at that point. But yeah, the Mariners do take game one 6-1 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And looking at I know we both were messaging a lot about the home plate umpire last night, Doug
Oh
Eddings.
yeah.
He was having a pretty rough game. Per the umpire scorecard, he had a called strike accuracy of 84%, which is really bad. You may love to know that he had an overall favor .44 runs for
I
Arizona,
saw that.
which is, I think, it's just generally hilarious. He had a really bad game behind the plate. He was given like inches and inches off the plate. It was just rough to watch. And I know this is kind of goes into, we talk all the time about umpires, especially this year. It just feels so bad. I don't know if it's like the robo umps that are coming up soon, the ABS system, if they are just like, wreaking havoc to like, I don't know. It just feels like they're on one this year. But I know you wanted to potentially have a bit of a talk about game one and kind of the recap. Because I know you were going crazy in the direct messages. So if you want to have anything else to say about game one, now's your time.
Doug Eddings did a complete piss poor job in this game, honestly, for both sides. We saw it pretty much the third batter of the game, or for you guys, Cal Raleigh. He took a pitch that was about this far off the plate, and it was a called strike three in a full count. That should have been ball four. I'm gonna say I am probably biased here entirely on what I'm about to say. When it comes to the Scott McGuff outing, there were not only some bad calls, but Scott throws a splitter. That's his main pitch. If Scott can't land the splitter, Scott can't get outs. That's just how it's going to work, right? It's pretty much a three pitch loadout that he has, and if he can't land that splitter, he's going to have the worst outing of the year. Scott was going to his mouth. He was licking his fingers to get like some spit so that he can grip the splitter. A split finger fastball, you basically wrap your hands like this around the ball and you throw it like a fastball. If he can't get that grip, it's not going to land and it's going to be a meatball in the middle of the plate. Doug Eddings repeatedly was getting on Scott saying, "You can't lick your hands," and it
Which isn't
just
even a rule.
led to him not being able. It's not. He ended up assessing an automatic ball that led to the Cal Raleigh walk. I'm pretty sure, and just it never really gave him a fair chance to even set up the inning for success. I mean, the Julio Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure that was the first pitch single. He already came in with Josh Rojas on the base pass. It was just a disaster. It was a disaster. And after that, the game was closed shut. I mean, Scott in general is a pretty hit or miss pitcher. He's either the most dominant reliever you'll see for like a month straight, or he's just giving up absolute disaster outings in high leverage situations. And that's just another thing we saw here. It was a terrible game behind the plate for both sides. What was that? An 83%?
84%.
84% accuracy. That cannot happen in whatever game. I don't care if it's a 17-1 blowout for a team or a 1-0 tight game between two pitchers duels. It cannot happen no matter what. It's a disaster, and we're seeing that so much this year. I feel like I've already seen like 7 or 8 games where I'm thinking, man, if there was even a semi-competent umpire behind the plate, there's a completely different outcome. And who knows what happens here? You said it was favored for the Diamondbacks, but it's never really that simple, right? Like it's one pitch can completely alter an at bat. Uh, yeah, just completely ruin that the outlook of that game for me there. Obviously, you're not going to blame it on the umpire because Scott gave up a grand slam. It's that simple. But really, really tough showing again for the league there, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah, no, it's been definitely an epidemic of umpire missteps this season so far. It's been really rough to watch, and I even said it the other day. I don't remember what it was regarding. I think it was the Aaron Boone ejection, again, where he didn't even say anything and he got ejected. It's just like the umpires union, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have a union, but MLB at some point needs to put their foot down when they're doing those contract negotiations. There has to be some sort of recourse against umpires when they blatantly miss things. And the fact that umpires are literally untouchable, Angel Hernandez, hello, you shouldn't have a job. It's like I just don't understand how there's just not a single way for an umpire to face repercussions for a clearly horrible call, horrible ejection. It honestly ruins the game, plain and simple. It makes it harder to watch. And, if MLB wants a bigger audience, that's one thing they need to clean up for it, because people are going to be watching the game. If they're casual fans, they're not going to be understanding what the hell is going on. But even a casual fan can tell when something doesn't make sense. And so if you have that, like, I guess distrust in the umpires that are officiating your games from the general public, something needs to be done. Hopefully ABS helps that a bit with called balls and strikes. But we'll see on that. But to get off of that, we'll continue with the rest of our game 2 and game 3 previews. We're mainly going to talk about just the starting pitchers for both, because I mean, we know who is hitting and who's not. So with game 2, which I will be going to tonight, if you see me, say hi. We're going to be having George Kirby on the mound for us against Slade Cecconi. And I wanted to have Aaron on partially because we don't know much about Slade Cecconi. Now, I know a little bit about him because I'm pretty sure I watched him play in Hillsboro when he was a Hillsboro Hop, who's the high A affiliate for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But I don't know a lot about him and who he is. He is a prospect who got called up, I believe, when Merrill Kelly went down, or when one of them went, Ryan Nelson. He was one of
Mm.
those corresponding moves. So, and he had a really good start against the San Francisco Giants to start out his year. So, tell us a bit more about what we can expect from Slade Cecconi tonight.
Yeah, so Slade Cecconi came, I believe it was when Ryan Nelson went down after he took a fastball to the elbow, but he ended up filling in for Merrill Kelly. A little bit of confusion there, because we have so many injuries.
Yeah.
Slade has been very reliable for the team in the minor leagues. He's great depth. And honestly, he can fill in as a successful starting pitcher at any point when the team needs him. He's probably the last bit of reliable depth that the team has right now. He brings about a 94 mile an hour four seamer that he throws a little over 50% of the time. Really nice slider, a curveball, and a changeup. You might remember Slade for having one of the funniest first career strikeouts I've ever seen, where he got a foul tip that Jose Herrera, our backup catcher, ended up hanging on to by his groin last year in San Francisco. Um, so yeah, he had a pretty successful start last time out. He's rocking a 3.0 ERA and one outing, so it doesn't really mean much. 6 innings pitched. Really only got scuffed up by one home run. but he's been really successful from everything that we've seen from him so far to this point in his career. Last year he had a 4.33 ERA in 7 games that he ended up pitching for the team. He's not going to blow you away with the strikeouts, but he's going to go up there. He's going to do his job. Um, and he's going to prevent that hard contact against him. So I'm excited to see what Slade can bring against the team, but I wouldn't say that the pitching matchup is in our favor going into this one.
Yeah, so Slade Cecconi, he's only has that one start. He only got 3
Mhm.
Ks in that start, so not a whole lot of swing and miss in his game, at least as of now. So I feel okay about that. I do think that we are the type of team, especially on a bad night, where we can make a pitcher who doesn't have a whole lot of swing and swing and miss in his game get a lot of swing and miss. We saw it last year. I always am going to remember that Lance Lynn start where we got Lance Lynn to get 16 strikeouts, and I'm talking 2023 Lance Lynn. So that was rough, but I know we're a whole different ball club from then, but still, that's one of the biggest holes in our game. So we'll see how Slade does against the Mariners offense. And then on the mound tonight, we have George Kirby, where he has a 2-2 record right now, a 5.33 ERA. A lot of that is going to be those 2 losses that you see in his loss column. He had, gave up like 8 runs against the Guardians, so he's a bit of an inflated ERA. However, his last couple starts have been pretty good and pretty decent. He's had quality starts. He left a little bit actually before quality start against the Rockies, and he did state after the game he was having some arm fatigue and arm soreness, which is something to monitor tonight for sure. Hopefully he did get like that extra day of rest switching with Emerson Hancock, so hopefully that is cleared up enough. I know yesterday it was reported he was throwing pretty, you know, uh, fine in warm-ups and when he was doing his normal pitching stuff or the day before his start, so he seemed to look fine then, which is hopefully good news that it was just kind of a random fatigue thing and really nothing to worry about. Hopefully it's not some the start of a longer term issue, because that would be really rough to lose him for a while. But really looking forward to George and his start tonight. Not only because I'm watching it, but I'm able to complete my big 3. I saw Castillo and Gilbert last year, so I get to see Kirby this year, so that'll be nice. But as far as George Kirby goes, the only thing I'd be worried about is because he is such a guy who just lives in the strike zone. We all know that he doesn't like walking guys. He can be prone potentially to these contact heavy lineups, especially more aggressive lineups. So when it comes to George Kirby and that type of pitcher versus this Diamondbacks offense, what are you hoping to see from you guys tonight with that?
Well, we've seen a lot of this type of thing from the Diamondbacks team this year, and well, more so last year, where they end up struggling against a pitcher that's maybe not as good, that they haven't seen before, and end up just having a massive game against a more elite pitcher. George Kirby's going to live in that strike zone. The Diamondbacks attack really early when there's a strike throw. We saw that with Steven Matz last week or this week in St. Louis, where he got really dinged up because he threw a lot in the zone. Um, the D-backs team, it is pretty contact based, but when you have guys like Corbin Carroll not really on their game, it does tend to turn more to power because we have guys like Jock Peterson, Christian Walker, Gino Suarez, Lourdes Gurriel, all in the middle of that lineup that can really bang. Not to mention Ketel Marte at the top, that's going to be able to take you deep no matter what count he's in. I would look out and see if George Kirby can maybe switch up the pace of the game a little bit, maybe stay a little bit outside of the zone against this team, because the Diamondbacks are going to be really aggressive against him coming into the day. I think you're going to notice. It's also worth noting that Kirby does pitch with that fire when he's on the mound, right? He is an emotional pitcher, I'd say, when he's up there. Um, So maybe try and keep an eye out, see if the Diamondbacks get into his head a little bit, because they do like to run. They do try and get into pitchers' heads and try to bait them into making a mistake, especially with the defense as well. We didn't see much of that yesterday because they just couldn't get anything going, but I'm definitely going to be interested to see what they can get going today.
Yeah, and hopefully the one thing I'll be looking for George tonight is, I don't remember if it was the Cubs or Cincinnati when he had his start before the Colorado series. I probably was Cubs if he pitched in the Colorado series. When he was working on changing up his slider a bit, he was using a lot more at the bottom of the zone, and it was working really well for him. So we'll definitely be looking out for that again to see if he's continuing that evolution in his slider to take it up a notch and get more swing and whiffs. So really excited to see Game 2, Slade Cecconi versus George Kirby. I think it's going to be ultimately a pretty good pitching matchup. So that's going to be a really good game for Game 2. And then in Game 3, we're going to be having Logan Gilbert on the mound versus Brandon Pfaadt. Logan Gilbert, I mean, what do I need to say about Logan this year? He is pitching like a Cy Young candidate. I said it before the season. Logan is my dude. I think he has a really good shot at becoming, uh, really in the contention for ace of the staff, for Cy Young, all that stuff. He's a kitchen sink pitcher. He has so many really good weapons for him. And then going up against Brandon Pfaadt, who really kind of rose to prominence last year for the Diamondbacks. He came in, I think last year was his rookie year, and he was kind of struggling for the first part of his tenure. However, Diamondbacks made the postseason, and dude absolutely slung in the postseason. He had a great 2023 playoff series. So yeah, I guess just we'll start with Logan Gilbert first, though. How are you feeling with Walter on the mound for Game 3?
I mean, Logan's been elite. I think that's the only way to really describe him this year. He hasn't been touched up basically at all. He's really making a case to break out this season and become like a serious contender for the ace of that team, because we've been talking about Luis Castillo, we've been talking about George Kirby, and I don't think that Gilbert really gets the respect that he deserves on this staff that is filled with aces and dominant pitchers. So I'll be interested to see what he can get going today. I'm not looking forward to seeing my lineup go up against him. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the same for just about any lineup at this point. With Logan on the mound, it's gonna be a hard night to get to him. So um it makes me feel really good about these next two games to see if we can get a series win. We'll see. I'm not gonna say a sweep or anything because one, it's hard to do that, and two, I don't I'm not that mean to be like, oh yeah, I think we're gonna sweep whatever. Um, but yeah, and then going with Brandon Pfaadt, he is currently at a 1-1 record, 4.97 ERA with 27 strikeouts. So kind of more about who, not necessarily who Brandon Pfaadt was in 2023 when he kind of gained that popularity in the Arizona. Talk about who is Brandon Pfaadt in 2024 so far.
So in 2024, Brandon, well, it's kind of hard to talk about him this year without mentioning what that kind of transition was at the end of last year. Because Fott really, he didn't start out well at all. He came up, got roughed up by the Rangers and the Rays, especially. Ended up spending a lot of time in the minor leagues. And the big difference was when he got a phone call from Brent Strom, and this is one of my favorite stories, around Thanksgiving. Uh, and pitching coach Brent Strom told him to switch the size of the mound that he pitches from because it would help him with deception on his pitches. And my goodness, did that work? That turned his entire season around. After that point, he pitched to like a sub-3 ERA, really started limiting the home runs, got a ton more strikeouts. Pfaadt is the type of pitcher that is going to get a little bit more Ks. You don't see it in some of the outings that he's had this year. A lot of that big ERA does come from one start against St. Louis, where he got roughed up. I believe that was Lars Nootbaar and Nolan Arenado that really got to him there. But what you're going to see from Pfaadt, I really like this matchup because it's two guys that get big extension and big chase. Brandon Pfaadt, he's really kind of that Kirby, I'd say Kirby Jr., where he hates walking guys. He hates walking guys. He's around the zone a lot, except for with that sweeper. He'll throw that sweeper, he'll wipe it out of the zone, and he'll try and do some of that chase. So I'm excited to see what he can do. We're looking for a little bit of a bounce back here. I believe his last outing was also against St. Louis. This one a little bit better. Only 2 earned runs allowed, and he looked fantastic for most of that game. When Brandon Pfaadt is on, he's going to be rolling. He's got a great mound presence. He doesn't get phased by anything. He's a big game pitcher, so if that game is tight, you're going to see him kick it into another gear. So I'll be excited to see what we can get out of Brandon here.
Yeah, I'm really excited for really both of these games to watch, not only with the pitching matchups we have that I think both are pretty decent in their own ways, but also, it's just been a very fun and emotional series, especially when the Diamondbacks come into town. And, with all of the overlap between who we've shared players of, basically, obviously, Eugenio Suarez had his big, hometown or homecoming last night, got a big ovation. The vibes were high for that. It was cool to see him back. I wish Seawald was in the bullpen right now for you guys. However, he's still not in it yet. Probably won't be for this series if he isn't already. So I would be surprised if we see him in games 2 or 3. And then it's like we've been trade partners, right? Like we had the huge Paul Sewald trade where we got Josh Rojas and Dominic Canzone, which thank you for Josh Rojas, by the way. Love him. He is he's like one of my favorite Mariners right now, and he is absolutely killing it. And then with Dominic Canzone, obviously he's on the IL right now. However, he's shown some glimpses of what he could end up being at some point. And then the Eugenio Suarez trade, we got Sebi Zavala from that, and Carlos Vargas. Haven't seen him yet. He's still in Tacoma. And Zavala. I mean, he had one good game against Colorado, but whatever. But still, there's a lot of overlap there. I heard today that Mitch Haniger, I guess, used to be a Diamondback at one point.
Don't forget Ketel Marte trade.
Yep, Ketel Marte trade. Gabe Spire used to be a Diamondback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who else. I know there's got to be more overlap somewhere, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I think I know that everyone, when the schedules were announced, were circling this weekend as the one to watch or one of the ones to watch. And so far, although game 1 maybe was disappointing on your guys' end, however, like it was still fun in the sense of like it's the dynamic is just really interesting. And it's not like a bad blood dynamic, right? It's a very positive thing. I'd be surprised if we had some bench clearing brawl or something during this series. I don't see that happen. It's been really a really cool kind of breath of fresh air to have just kind of a really positive and fun series regardless of kind of how it goes. So but any final thoughts about the Arizona Diamondbacks for the Mariners for games 2 and 3, and just kind of what are you hoping to see?
No, I'm excited to watch these two teams play ball. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of my Snakes, and I love the Mariners too. There's tons of connections, and I think there's more connection between these two ball clubs than either of them have connections with any other team that isn't in their division, right? It's really weird how these two teams continue to kind of gravitate towards each other, and the fan bases as well. We saw that a lot during the playoff run last year. I'm just excited to see what can happen between these two teams. I mean, there's going to be some moments. Maybe Gino does something big and a bunch of people get emotional. I am sad that Paul can't be here, but it's not been officially announced, but I'm thinking that he's going to make another rehab appearance either with Reno or at Salt River Fields in Arizona. So we'll be keeping an eye out for him. But I'm excited to watch this series. Go Snakes.
Yep. So game 2 is tonight. Once again, you can watch that on FS1. So it's going to be nationally carried, which is kind of fun. But also there's the local stuff, Root Sports and whatever you guys have. I don't think it's Pally's anymore. It's
No,
you guys have your own
MLB.
thing, I think, at this point. Yeah, MLB, and then game 3, also Root Sports and MLB for the Arizona part of that. So going to be really fun to watch. Once again, I'll be there tonight. So go George Kirby. Hopefully we hit a bunch of dingers off Slade Cecconi. That'll be really fun. So yeah, but if you see me, say hi. But yeah, that's going to be it for our analysis of this D-back series. And maybe we'll do a little thing afterwards when it's all said and done and kind of just recapping it all. But yeah, thanks for Aaron for stopping by. It's always a pleasure to have you on to talk about ball.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. And we will go back now to the next portion of today's podcast, the prospect recap with Ben Ranieri.
All right, welcome in to another prospect recap. My name is Ben Ranieri. I own and operate and write and podcast over at Sea Level because there's always stuff going on in the minor leagues. And this week I want to start in Everett, where Victor Labrada actually went to Driveline this offseason, from what I've been told, and he put on about 10 miles an hour of bat speed, which is pretty crazy. He doesn't have any bombs yet, but the bat speed seems like it's starting to translate to games a little bit. Labrada has over 900 OPS. I understand OPS isn't the best stat, but I'm going to use OPS today. Victor Labrada, over 900 OPS with Ben Williamson to lead the team. Michael Morales also looks much improved with better breaking balls this year and a 2.86 ERA. It's probably getting to be time where he's going to move up to the next level here. Speaking of, actually, let's go down to Modesto here. Modesto, Luis Sweezbell, very interesting. He leads the team pretty much among the guys that you would say are qualified hitters, with a 909 OPS. So he's raking, but he's striking out a ton. He already has 28 strikeouts. Speaking of a guy who used to strike out a lot, Lazaro Montes, a little bit of a power outage, a low 700s OPS for Lazaro Montes. The guy that stood out to me, and I haven't really talked about him a ton yet, Michael Arroyo. He's been very good in a lot of categories offensively. He's walking, he's controlling the zone, he's not striking out a lot, he's hitting doubles, he's hit a couple of bombs. So keep an eye out for Michael Arroyo. He's probably one of the next guys that I would say will be ready to move up to Everett. Over in Arkansas, Ty Locklear, a 903 OPS so far to lead the offensive group. Harry Ford and Cole Young struggling a little bit. Sub 700 OPS for both of those guys. It's definitely just taking a while for those guys to kind of settle in to Double-A pitching. Cole Young just really hasn't translated the power yet. He's getting on base at a decent clip here. Logan Evans, a really good start for Logan Evans this week. What did I say last week? I wanted to see Logan Evans miss some more bats, and he did that this week. 8 strikeouts, 6 innings pitched. His ERA is down to a 1.86. The Mariners pitching lab seems as though they've done it again. One guy that I've really been keeping track of up in AAA Tacoma is Blake Hunt. We know we've heard about Sebi Zavala and some of his shortcomings. Blake Hunt, all of a sudden, when you look up, he's caught in 13 games. He's got an 822 OPS. That's really interesting. I really like Blake Hunt, and I like his prospect to be a better overall catcher than Sebi Zavala is at the big league level. So keep an eye on Blake Hunt. Sam Haggerty, an 856 OPS. He's starting to swing the bat really well. And Ryan Bliss, although he has a low average, and that's not really going to play at the big league level, he's still striking out too much. He has performed. He's starting to hit for some power. 810 OPS so far on the year for Tacoma. That Tacoma bullpen still looks really good. So overall, some interesting things going on in the minors. Again, if you're going to keep an eye on a team, keep an eye on Modesto. They are really, really fun. They're going to continue to go through a little bit of growing pains here and there, but man, are they fun. They score a lot of runs. They hit a lot of homers. So fun to keep an eye on. So, again, probably the highlight of the week for me, Logan Evans, really good start, missing some bats. That's exactly what you want to see from the Mariners' top pitching prospect. Thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Ben Ranieri. Follow me over at Sea Level. Follow me on Twitter, Ben Ranieri10. Thank you for joining me. Go M's.
Thank you to Ben Ranieri for that section of the prospect recap. A lot of good stuff going on in our farm system right now. Always appreciated that he comes on and does this. And yeah, I want to catch a Modesto Nuts game so bad. I'm not going to be near Modesto anytime, but if you are, go catch a game there. So yeah, a lot of cool things going on. And now we're going to get into our weekly update with Joe from Mariner Mojo.
Our top story today on Raise the Trident is that Colton is missing. He was last seen on this week's episode of the Hit It Here podcast. You see on your screen right now his missing milk carton. He responds to Colton, Spesh, Colty, Pookie, anything like that. He likes ranch almost too much, so if you leave a trail behind you, he might be following. Contact if seen as marinermojobiz@gmail.com. Welcome into the Raise the Trident weekly update. And the Miami Marlins started off the season 0-9, but somehow, someway, there is a baseball team that is worse than them, and that is the Chicago White Sox. Losers in, I think, of their last 7. They are 1-9 over their last 10. Did just get mopped in Minnesota by the Twins, a 4-game sweep. They are 3-22 on the year. They've got a negative 85 run differential. I actually don't know if that's updated. I think it is. And if you go by like the projected, or what they're expected to do throughout this year, 3-22, that puts them at roughly 20 and 142. This team is going to be one of the worst baseball teams MLB has ever seen, without a doubt. We knew that with all the trades that were happening in the offseason and new GM Chris Getz trying to get things together, but it's been a rough show for the White Sox, and it's not getting any prettier. But we're going to go into some more positive, I guess, if you want to call it positive notes. The glazing of Shohei Ohtani is real. We all know that. Every single big baseball Twitter account is trying to act like Ben Verlander, going boing boing on it. But 3 doubles in Wednesday night's game against the Washington Nationals seemed like it was top tier glazing by the MLB Twitter account here. But there were some replies and some questions like, why are we posting this? If any other player would do this, why would we care? Why would they tweet that? It's just because it's Shohei Ohtani. Well, Shohei Ohtani currently has 14 doubles on the year, and we're about like 15% of the way through the MLB season. 14 doubles puts him just at around 20% of the major league record for doubles in a singular season. 67 doubles set by Earl Webb in 1931. Shohei Ohtani is on pace to break that this year in his debut season with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So MLB, I give you permission. Yes, I know you're really desperate for the permission out here to continue to glaze Shohei Ohtani as much as you have been. And another guy that seemingly is marquee baseball, no matter what, Elly De La Cruz, Aaron, hater, fan of the show, friend of the show, not even fan, friend of the show, Aaron Hughes, big hater for Elly De La Cruz, clowned Colton for drafting him in the Mariners Creator League in like the 8th round, thinks he's completely overrated. Codify, plenty of other, I don't even think it was Codify that I saw it from first, but I found it from him most easiest when I was looking for things to talk about. Elly De La Cruz is on pace to hit 47 home runs and steal 101 bases. That's pretty damn good, guys. Elly De La Cruz has been must-watch baseball for the Cincinnati Reds, currently in 3rd place in the division. Actually, I don't know if that's true. Let me go back to this. Currently in 3rd place in their division at 14-11 behind the Brewers and the Cubs, but largely because of Elly De La Cruz absolutely popping off and just a fun, electrifying baseball player to watch when he is playing well. And something else that Need a cut here, Jake. I miss Colton so much. And I would say across MLB, Elly De La Cruz is a fan favorite. He's a fun guy to watch. Something that's also fun. MLB Players Weekend is coming back with a reimagining. It's not nearly as fun as it once was with the nicknames on the back, but there will be a cool little insignia on the side panel for the hats, and 3 different days across August 16th, 17th, and 18th, highlighting just the players around the league. Day 1 will feature their personalities, friendships, and off-the-field interests. Day 2 will focus on their charitable causes, and Day 3 will celebrate the people who help them on their path to the big leagues, including parents, coaches, and other mentors. There will not be any fun jerseys with the names on the back, which is a tragedy, because I miss the player weekend jerseys so much. The Mariners ones are so nice, in my opinion. But this is something that's fun. This is something that's good, cool, brings more eyes to the MLB, especially a younger audience, hopefully. So W for bringing Players Weekend back. Just hopefully they do it right. And Jake, not going to talk anything really Mariners specific here, because I'm sure you've already done it plenty on the Raise the Trident show here. Have fun on Saturday's game, which you will be attending against the Diamondbacks. If you guys happen to see Jake there, go say hi to him. Say what's up. Tell him I sent you. But that's enough from me. Back to you, Jake.
See, I didn't know before this was recording. I did not know my Pookie Bear Colton was missing. We need to find him, guys. You need to send an email to marinermojobiz@gmail.com, please. We need to find Colton safe and sound. Hopefully he'll be on next week. But yeah, it's just, no, it has not been the same in my heart since I found out that he is gone. And I hope he comes back. Please come back. We miss you. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode of Raise the Trident. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and you can like the video too. It's free. It helps me out a lot. I'm trying to get to 500 subs by the All-Star break. So hopefully you can help me do that. If you're on either Spotify or Apple listening to audio only, I appreciate you for doing that. You can follow the show and give a 5-star review. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, and I will see you next week.